Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told Us podcast. Are you ready to dive into a world of tiny metal and surprisingly big stories?
I am.
Today, we're talking about the safety pin.
The safety pin.
Yep, that little thing you probably have in your sewing kit. We're going to uncover its hidden depths, and believe me, it's a lot more interesting than you might think.
I'm intrigued already.
So to get us started, can you give us a little preview? What's so fascinating about the history of the safety pin?
Well, for starters, it's not just a modern invention.
Oh,
The idea itself has been around for centuries. Imagine yourself in ancient Greece, walking through a crowded marketplace.
okay, I'm picturing it. The smell of fresh bread, the sound of people bargaining.
And you see people wearing these stylish tunics fastened together with...
I don't know, some kind of pin, I guess.
Exactly. That's called a fibula, a brooch-like piece, very similar in function to the safety pin. It even had a similar shape, curved with a pointed end.
Fascinating. So the safety pin's ancestor was a fashion statement in ancient Greece.
It was. But the story goes back even further. Let's fast forward a few centuries to ancient Palestine.
Okay, what happened there?
Around 1700 BC, a group called the Hyksos arrived, and they brought with them a new type of pin, the toggle pin.
The Hyksos.
Yes. They were known for their advancements in things like warfare and technology.
I vaguely remember them from a history class somewhere.
Well, they might have brought us an early version of the safety pin, too. Isn't that interesting?
It is. So the safety pin has roots in both ancient Greece and ancient Palestine.
It does. But let's jump ahead to 1849. This is when our modern safety pin finally makes its grand entrance.
Okay, set the scene for me. Who invented the safety pin as we know it?
Picture New York City. Our inventor is a man named Walter Hunt, kind of a tinkerer, always inventing something. And here's the kicker. He was driven by a $15 debt.
A $15 debt.
That's the story. Supposedly, he was messing around with some brass wire, trying to create something he could sell to pay it off.
And that's how he invented the safety pin.
That's the legend.
Incredible. Did it work? Did he pay off his debt?
He did. He sold the patent for $400.
Wow, $400. That was a lot back then, right?
It was. But think about how much money has been made from safety pins since then.
I know, right? Talk about missing out on a fortune.
He actually invented a few other things too, you know.
Really? Like what?
Well, he's also credited with inventing the first commercially viable sewing machine.
No way.
He did. But he sold that patent quickly too. He seemed more interested in the act of inventing than making a profit.
What an interesting guy. So we've got ancient origins, a debt-driven invention, and a seemingly unbusiness-savvy inventor. Where does the story go from here?
Well, we've talked about its humble beginnings, but the safety pin's story takes a bit of a darker turn when we consider its name, safety.
Ooh, I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Despite its name, the safety pin hasn't always been so safe.
Especially for kids, I bet.
You got it. You see, safety pins haven't always been so safe, especially for kids. There was a time when safety pin ingestion was a real problem.
Oh, wow. I can imagine. Kids put everything in their mouths.
And it could be really serious, you know, a sharp, open safety pin lodged in a child's throat. Scary stuff. It was such a big issue in the early 1900s that a doctor named Chevalier Jackson actually dedicated his career to solving it.
Wow, a doctor dedicated to safety pin removal. That's kind of amazing.
It is. Dr. Jackson was a laryngologist, a throat specialist, and he realized that the tools they had back then just weren't good enough for removing swallowed objects.
So what did he do?
He invented a whole set of special instruments, specifically designed for safely removing things like safety pins. His work saved countless lives, I'm sure.
That's incredible. So we've gone from a $15 debt to life-saving medical instruments. This safety pin is full of surprises.
It really is. It just shows you how even the simplest things can have a huge impact.
It makes you wonder what else this little piece of metal has been up to.
Well, get ready for a wild ride, because next, the safety pin takes a sharp turn into the world of music and counterculture. We're talking punk rock.
Punk rock. Okay, now this, I gotta hear. How did the safety pin become a symbol of rebellion?
Picture this. The late 1970s. Punk rock is exploding onto the music scene. Raw, loud, rebellious.
I can hear it now.
And what's a key part of that punk look?
Ripped jeans, leather jackets, mohawks.
All that, and often held together, mended, decorated even, with safety pins.
So it was practical, keeping those clothes from falling apart.
It was, but it was also much more than that. The safety pin in punk was a statement. It represented that DIY ethos, you know, like, we're not buying into your mass-produced fashion, we do things our own way.
So the safety pin was like a symbol of rebellion.
Exactly. And they wore it loud and proud, not hidden away, like a challenge almost.
I've seen pictures. Yeah, they use them for everything. Clothes, bags, even piercings. It definitely made a statement.
Yeah.
But how did it start? Who decided that the safety pin was going to be a punk symbol?
Well, there are a few different theories. Some say it was just out of necessity. Punk fashion with all the rips and tears. Well, you needed something to hold it all together, right?
Right. Makes sense.
Others say that it was Richard Hell, the punk icon. He was often seen wearing safety pins on his clothes, so maybe he inspired others to do the same.
So it could have been necessity, inspiration, or maybe a bit of both.
It's hard to say for sure, but it definitely caught on. But it wasn't just about fashion.
I figured there had to be more to it.
It really represented a whole attitude, a way of life. It was about rejecting conformity, consumerism, and celebrating individuality.
Wow, so this little pin became like this powerful symbol of a whole movement.
It did. But the story doesn't end there. The safety pin, it's a chameleon. It adapts and evolves.
Okay, so where does it go next?
From the mosh pit, it moves into the world of activism.
Activism. How did that happen?
Well, remember how in punk, the safety pin was about solidarity, about shared beliefs?
Yeah, like a sign that you belong to a certain group.
Exactly. And that idea of solidarity, of standing together, that's at the heart of activism.
So the safety pin was kind of already set up to become a symbol of support for a cause.
You could say that. And we see this happen in more recent times, especially after things like Brexit and the 2016 US election. Things got pretty divisive.
Oh yeah, lots of tension back then.
And that's when people started wearing safety pins as a way to show solidarity with marginalized groups, a way to say, I'm against racism and hate.
Like a silent protest.
Yeah, and also a way to try and make people feel safe, like a sign that said, you're safe with me.
That's really powerful.
It was. But of course, like with any symbol used in politics, it sparked some controversy.
Makes sense. Not everyone agrees on these things.
No.
What were people saying?
Some people felt like it was just a meaningless gesture, like it wasn't actually doing anything to help, just a way to make yourself feel good. They called it slacktivism.
So it became a debate about what it really means to support a cause.
Exactly. It raised important questions about allyship and what real action looks like.
So from punk rock to a symbol of solidarity, this little safety pin has really been on a journey.
It has. And you know what's even more fascinating? Its story isn't just a Western one. It has a rich history in different cultures around the world.
Oh, I love that. Okay, take us on a global tour of the safety pin. Where are we going first?
Let's start our global tour of the safety pin in India, where the safety pin takes on a whole new meaning. It becomes a symbol of family history and legacy.
Family history. How so?
There's a tradition in some parts of India where mothers pass down safety pins to their daughters, like heirlooms almost, a way to connect with the generations that came before.
That's so sweet. Like a tiny piece of family history.
Exactly. It's a way to connect with the past. And it's often tied to a baby's first haircut.
Oh.
Yeah, in some traditions, they'll save a lock of hair from that first haircut and attach it to a safety pin. Then they pass it down.
Like a tiny time capsule.
It is. It's really beautiful how something so simple can hold so much meaning.
So we've got family legacy in India. What other cultural interpretations are out there?
Well, let's hop over to Ukraine. There, the safety pin is believed to have a more, let's say, mystical side.
Mystical. Okay, tell me more.
In Ukrainian folklore, they believe safety pins can ward off evil spirits.
Like a good luck charm.
Kind of. They'll often attach them to clothing, especially children's clothing, for protection.
I can see that. Wanting to keep your kids safe from harm.
It's a very human thing, isn't it? Wanting to protect those we love. And the safety pin, with its closed loop and sharp point, maybe it just seemed like the perfect symbol for that.
It's amazing how this one little object can have such different meanings across cultures.
It really is. And our final stop on this global tour takes us to a place where the safety pin becomes a symbol of, well, luck.
Luck. I never would have thought of a safety pin as lucky.
Well, in some cultures, finding a safety pin, especially an open one, is a sign of good luck.
Really? That's so interesting.
And it makes sense if you think about it. Safety pins, they fix things, they mend tears, they hold things together.
So it's like a little problem solver.
Yeah.
Bringing order to chaos.
Exactly. Maybe that's why it's seen as lucky in some places. It represents that ability to fix things, to bring good fortune.
So from ancient fasteners to punk rock symbols, from family heirlooms to lucky charms, the safety pin has really seen it all.
It has. It's a reminder that even the most ordinary things can have extraordinary stories.
I'll never look at a safety pin the same way again.
Oh,
This deep dive has been incredible. Thank you for sharing all this amazing information.
my pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on Tell Me More Stories Told as podcast. We'll be back soon with another fascinating deep dive. Until then, keep exploring and keep those safety pins handy. You never know when you might need a little luck.